It feels like a new life, new journey, new fight at a new height. Still thirsty, still trying to do right, though it might hurt me. I'm on a new flight tonight, but don't worry. I cheated death, felt my heart beat out my chest. Deep breath, released all my worries and stress. Guess it could have been.
Tattooing, there's been a lot that's been difficult, but tattooing is different than any other medium. So you got from painting with acrylics to canvas to cans to anything, and I've done a lot of other mediums in art, and tattooing is a wholly different thing, from the technical aspect of it to the machine building to building needles to just knowing the craft to learning the history. But more than anything, I mean, the most challenging part was dropping what I knew of the art world that I knew. Because I started tattooing, I started my apprenticeship when I was 27, you know, so to start that kind of old in the game is a little a lot of times kids are starting at 20, 21, 19, fucking 16, you know, so I started a little bit later than usual, and I had challenges because I already had a business, and I already had Inkproof in my business going by then, where I had done freelance work, so I had to transfer all of that over, and I love it. I love tattooing, but it's a whole different world. It was tough. I'm lucky that I apprenticed under one of the best tattooers in the city, Shane Wallen. I apprenticed under him at Twilight, and he showed me a hell of a lot. But I am lucky and fortunate that I went under a traditional apprenticeship. But mine was about 2 years, almost 2 years, and you know, at the age of 27, 28 at the time, to have to sit back and not earn any money at all and just be there and learn. I was willing to do that, definitely, but it took a hell of a lot to sit back and just, I wanted to jump in, and you can't, you know, you're hungry and you can't, and I'm glad that he did it the way he did it, and I'm glad that, because nowadays there's, I mean, as a lot of us know in the art world, and especially in tattooing, that there's shops everywhere, anybody can be a tattoo artist, anybody can do this shit. And that's not the case, you know. And so I'm just, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I'm lucky and fortunate that I had traditional apprenticeship. So.
Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to
Tat.
Tat.
Do you do tats?
Don't say
and
that.
most tattoo artists out there know what the fuck I'm talking about. Don't say that. You can say that, but you might not get a response.
I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack Mr.
Yeah, hell yeah. There's a lot of them. I've noticed over the last couple of years the hardest things for me to let go of, the hardest pieces for me to let go of are the live paintings. And, well, live paintings and watercolors, actually. Watercolors take a hell of a lot of time, man. I love doing them. But I can spend anywhere from, you know, 5 hours to 20 hours on one that's 9 by 12 or 11 by 17 or whatever. Yeah, it's a little bit harder when it's something that you're like, I wouldn't mind having that. I don't necessarily want it on my wall, but I just want to be able to give it to this person or a family member.
Yeah.
So yeah, some shit's harder, for sure. Because I'm crazy. No, I am crazy, but I've had a passion for all kinds of shit, all kinds of mediums, all kinds of art, all kinds of music, all kinds of things. And I put drugs and alcohol down a long time ago. It's a whole nother story, but once I started Inkproof and started my business and started really trying to do my art for a living and be a working artist, and to actually be able to eat off of that stuff, which was definitely tough for years, and a lot of artists can understand that. I knew I loved listening to certain kinds of music, and I knew that the music I listened to fed the artwork I did, and I also knew that I loved certain styles of art. I loved architecture. I loved watercolors. I loved acrylics. I loved tattoos. I loved everything, you know. And so I figure, what the hell? I'm here, you know. At that point, I had a second chance at life, really, you know, after putting all the other crap down that was killing me. And I figure, what the hell? And while I'm here, I want to do the best I can. I want to do all the stuff I can. And I mean, the loss of sleep is nothing new to me. I'm a bit of a movie buff, period, but horror movies, yeah, I might watch one this evening. Silence of the Lambs is in the top 3, for sure. I like classics. I'd say the first Halloween, and probably The Notebook. No, I'm trying to think here. I don't know about a third. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that.
The Notebook can be pretty scary.
It's a little scary. It's a little scary. Not that I've seen it, you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
You heard about it.
If I did, right. Next question. I hate to use like the organic kind of fucking hippie artist description, but it really is a vibe, a feeling, you know? It's like anything that anything that comes into our vision, and this is the way I think, but anything that comes into me visually that I've been through, that I've felt, whether it's pain, whether it's happiness, whether it's a certain situation that I've come across, that's definitely changed my attitude or my look at a certain thing. I mean, it's all of that shit feeds into the art. It can't not. There's no way for it to not feed into or flow out of me. It's a joke to me. It's a joke. Anybody that's been, I mean, I went to high school from 92 to 96, right? So around that time is when I really started being into graph and doing, and I will never claim being an illegal graffiti artist for a long time. There's people that I ran with that I look up to that have always, they've done that. You know, I did a little bit here and there, and I was like, you know what? Drugs were more important, honestly. Drinking was more important. So, and a lot of them, that times like shit goes hand in hand. But for me, it was just, I was busy getting in trouble with the law in other ways. So, but anyway, so I dabble with it a little bit, and then I kind of just kept to my sketchbook in my room and with paintings and whatever it may be. But I'm very fortunate when I went to high school in Bethesda, Maryland. I went to high school with a couple of cats that are very big. They have huge names in the graffiti world, you know, and we still talk, and I feed off of what they do, and I see their success. But it's an art form that I've always respected and loved, and to me, I know that when someone came to me the first time and said, I want you to do a graffiti-inspired mural, and we'll pay you, to say no to that based on what some notion, it's bullshit. It's a kid's notion. Like, and I've always said, like, you know, there'll always be the element of bombing, right? So like going out bombing, doing hand styles and shit, and doing things that look sick. But I'm 34 years old, man. Like the friends that I know that are successful in graffiti, that have literally gallery shows all over the world, and I'm proud as hell of them. And the people that I look up to that do graffiti, that do it way better than I can, you know. And I like to think I'm good with a can for sure, but the whole selling out thing, and here's the way I see it: if you can get paid to do what you love to do, and you're working your ass off at it, no matter what the hell it is, how can you be mad at that? Or how can you say that you're selling out? I know artists that feed their family and they started doing graffiti, and now they're in their 40s or their 30s, and this is how they make their living. So you're gonna tell them they sold out when they were bombing trains, when you weren't even a thought in their mom's head yet? That's bullshit to me, you know what I mean? And it's a childlike notion, you know, and there's lots of, I mean, I get a little heated about it, because it's just like, you know, it's not, I've had to have conversations when I've done workshops with kids about it, because they think there's been this dumb thing that's been passed down with a lot of youth, unfortunately, that there's always going to be the rebel aspect of graffiti. But there's also now, thank God, it's a good thing that now it's been brought into galleries, it's been brought into the professional world. There's guys in suits paying millions of dollars to a guy because they respect and they see what it's worth. It's being respected now. So if somebody could keep it real when they're 40, living in their parents' basement because they didn't want to sell out and they're just doing stuff in a sketchbook or doing black book stuff, and I don't respect that. To me, that's just you're being stubborn and you're not understanding what it's about. And some of the best people I know are artists that live off of what they do. They eat off of what they do. And 9 times out of 10, whether it be me or a graffiti artist that strictly does graph, they can be up all night doing paintings or whatever it doesn't just stay with walls or trains. I mean, they could be and they're up till 5 in the morning, getting up at 8 o'clock the next morning to go to a meeting with this museum or this firm or this architecture. It's a business, and if people do it, the way they want it, so.
Yo, what's up? This is Tajay of the Mighty Soul.
No, I wouldn't say so. Tattooing is definitely been my biggest love over the last group of years, and it will be for a while. But it's something that I've always been interested in since I started being an artist, and since I've had the chance to actually be tattooing for a while professionally. It's opened my eyes to a lot of things with the art form. And I'm 5 years in, I'm still young in tattooing. I mean, I know that I've been doing it long enough to know something, but, and I like to think I try my best with it, and I wake up knowing that I always have a hell of a lot to learn in my art, no matter what it is. But with tattooing, I mean, I don't think it's the end. I think that it's definitely the beginning of the career in tattooing. But no, I don't think it's the end as far as art forms and what I want to keep doing. I like to think I've always been an artist. I mean, I've been an artist since I was 5 years old, drawing on my parents' walls. I know that. I always loved it. And the first thing I drew, which my mom still has, a little Smurf with wings, and a little Smurf that I think I freehanded that joint. But I knew probably when I made the decision, I was going to Minneapolis College of Art and Design. I remember it was like over a period of a month, and I was frustrated as hell. I mean, I'm talking like 24, 25, like lots of kids have done, and just digging in my couch for quarters to get food, and knowing that this was leading somewhere. I didn't know where, I didn't know how, and it wasn't like, I'm not a religious dude, I am spiritual, but I knew that I was being led to something, and I had years of living like that. Like they say, the struggling artist, like I lived that shit, and I lived like knowing it was getting somewhere, doing so many free jobs, doing things just to get in the door, flying to New York and I love doing it, but that's what you have to do, if you want to make this a career, and it was a couple of the first mural jobs or CD cover design kind of joints I did. Those jobs were kind of the pinnacle for me, probably around 2003 or 4. Probably when I was like, I can make a little bit of money with this, And it was a little. It started as a little,
Yeah.
Paying bills off art. God damn. It was rough, man. It was rough for a little bit. So I mean, professionally, I've been doing it for, I don't know, about 10 years now. And like really professionally, probably like 7. And really, I mean, it's when I started doing a little bit more live painting with a lot of musicians and hip hop acts, and a couple of CD cover design pieces and whatever it may be. But it was around 2005 when again my professor said, you're already kind of living off your artwork. I remember there was it's actually an article right there, but I did a show and they did a piece. I was grateful they did a piece on me in the Tribune in Minneapolis, and that got me a little bit of exposure and whatever it was, and that was cool. And my professor one morning saw that, and she called me over and she was like, what are you trying to do here? Like, you're already you're promoting, you're already doing your stuff. Like, are you trying to get a degree to work for somebody as a graphic designer? Because that's not what you do, obviously. You do everything by hand. So once she talked to me, I was like, shit, I gotta make some decisions here. I figured I'm just gonna try to make a name and do what I do and do it the best I can. And so that's when I quit school and I dove in with Inkproof and my business and my website. And I just got out there and I hit the pavement and I started doing all the jobs I could. And I literally was lucky. I can use the word lucky because I am lucky and fortunate, but I also put a lot of time in. Like, I put a lot of days and weeks and years, and people that know me, my good friends, know how hard I worked to get to where I'm at. But they knew that, I mean, it wasn't like a lucky break I had, or someone hired me. It was like, and I work for myself. I mean, mainly, I mean, I'm besides at the tattoo shop, I work for Shane, but for my business, I'm it. So basically I started realizing, okay, it was a good feeling, and I knew it was around that time when I could pay my rent I remember I sold a couple, like 2 paintings, and I remember how good I felt, and I told my parents that I could pay my rent, and I was like, I can do this, kind of on my own. And I remember around the time when I finally told them, like, I think I'm good now, and that meant a hell of a lot, to me, because he, as my dad, always believed in me, but he didn't get the art thing, really. I mean, he tried, and I think, towards the end of his life, passed a couple of years ago, but he understood, and he knew that I was going to be okay with it, being an artist. You aren't owed shit. You aren't owed anything until you earn it. Anybody that's successful or had success in some form or another in their creative field, you need to earn what you get. And it takes some people get lucky breaks, and that's cool if that's their deal, but for me, you always learn from struggle and from striving to get something and falling down 100 times and getting back up, and then seeing the light and falling down, and I had to do that for a long time, So for up and coming artists, I'd say work your ass off. You have to know that it's okay to mess up in your own head, as long as you're messing up. You're the judge, and everybody else isn't even necessarily the jury. They get an opinion, and they get to either buy the piece or not, or enjoy it or not, and that's cool. I mean, art's subjective. And to me, I know that that when I was coming up, and again, I like to consider myself still kind of new. Like, I don't want to be done. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm finished. And I want to have an established career, and I do, thank God. But a lot of there's lots of kids nowadays that think that, and it's not just in art, but I see it in music, I see it in other fields, and you're not owed anything by anyone unless you work for it, and you hear it all the time, but it's really true. I mean, if I didn't have the struggles I've had, I wouldn't be here saying this and talking to you, so it all feeds itself. There's a lot. First one's getting sober at 21. I got clean, and I almost look at that as I started over, and then I really started doing my artwork for real then. But my dad dying in 2010, that's changed a lot. That's changed a lot with my art. It's totally fine the way it is. I mean, him dying was the hardest thing I've gone through in my life so far, besides getting clean, but it's impacted my art in a way where I've seen it getting better, my artwork, and I've heard it, that people think it's getting, this is looking nicer here or there. And you'll always have stuff you're not happy with, but shit, it's the way life goes, but I see internally, I see my drive it changed. Something changed once my father passed away, and that's a good thing. What's hip hop? Honestly, hip hop had a huge part of my life, and anybody that knows me well knows that, you know, and I'm proud as hell of that, you know. Hip hop, there's something when I first heard Run DMC, when I first heard Common back in the day, when I first heard, you know, when I first heard Eric B. and Rakim, and when I first heard Third Bass and Digital Underground and all, and that stuff came a little later actually. Right now, people that know me too, I'm still in old school.
Let's ask this question.
I still
what
like 92 to 95 is my shit. But I could go, I mean, I can bounce all around, but to me, mid-90s hip-hop to me, and again, I'm from the East Coast, so I love all different things, but there's certain things to me that will always reign over. Black Thought, still my favorite MC. He's still my top MC, he's still, the roots are, and anybody that knows me knows that. I mean, and if he ever sees this, for one group I want to paint him. But I still listen to, I mean, Nas, dude, there's all kinds of groups. I mean, people that I love right now, I mean, I love a lot of local stuff too. I really do. I love Brother Ali. I love, and I know it sounds like a cliche thing because I'm living in Minneapolis, but I listen to these dudes. I like Brother Ali. I like, obviously, I love Atmosphere. My good brothers, the Unknown Prophets. I listen to them a lot. I listen to all kinds of people, man. I'd say right now, I mean, there's no like new MCs that I'm really going nuts over. I honestly think, and I'm not like an old school head that's angry at hip hop. That's you know, but I think to me, I've always loved the DJ and DJ Premier, Gangstar. That stuff's classic to me.
Yeah.
I could listen to DJ Premier. You know, just mix and blend stuff for forever.
Now tuned into the motherfucking greatest. Turn the music up in the headphones. Tim, you can go and brush your shoulders off, nigga. I got you. Yeah.
There's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of them. I'm lucky. I'm definitely lucky. But I would say that the first thing that comes to mind, and there's a lot of them, and I love and thanks to everybody I've had a chance to work with, for sure. But the first thing that pops in my head is the man who invented turntabling. When Grandmaster Flash did a couple of shows here in Minneapolis, and my boy Beecher at the time got me hooked up to do the shows and do live painting there. And I had already been doing live painting shows around the city here and there for different artists, and Rock Rada and some other ones. And so I went this one night and got set up, got everything ready, and I did the painting, and it was pretty crazy, man. It was, his assistant was videotaping his tour at the time. And to me, I'm sitting there going, this is fucking Grandmaster Flash. Like, and the show was crazy. Like, the what he played was insane. Like, he had that whole place, and all ages, and mainly older, you know. People our age and in their 40s, and because he's probably mid-50s by now. But the dude invented turntabling, you know, to a certain degree. I mean, there's people that might argue with that, but he did. Yeah, I had stayed in touch with his assistant. I showed him the painting, and then I mailed him the painting. I had about 20 seconds to talk to him after the show because he had to go to the hotel. And I had to get past his security and do my little thinking in my head, like, all right, what do I gotta say? I gotta sell this thing quick, and because really the goal is to work with him later, you know, and to maybe do something for him. Because, I mean, him and a lot of these other artists that I've had a chance to work with, I love their music. I listen to their music while I'm doing artwork, so why the hell not combine it? Makes sense to me, you know. And so anyway, so I got to talk to him, sent the painting out. He left me a really nice voicemail when he got the painting at his house in Long Island and thanking me. And that, for a hip-hop kid, like, who's always loved the art form, was like, something's happening in the world right now. Like, if Grandmaster Flash is calling me to say thanks about a painting, you know. Doesn't matter what the hell. You could say, hey, I think your painting sucked, and I'm still, you know, it's Grandmaster Flash. So did that, and then so then fast forward a couple of months, I'm out in California, and or maybe it was North Carolina, somewhere. Yeah, it was North Carolina, and I got the call from his assistant, who I'm friends with, that said, I'm in the studio with Flash, and I heard Flash in the background. What's up, Chris? And that was cool. And about a week later, I talked to his manager that night. She was really cool, and he asked me if I could come out to his house while I was recording his album. And that's what this is. It was his last album with a bunch of artists on it. It was called The Bridge. I was on cloud 9, dude, and I was like, this can't. I remember being in the shower. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? I'm gonna fly out to his house and hang out with him. And so, and it's definitely not an ego thing, man. It's I'm happy, I'm proud, but because I worked to get there. But it was more just like as a fan, I was like, this is crazy, and I really was. So fast forward a week, I get out of the cab. I'm in Long Island. I'm with his assistant. We go to Pearl, to the art store in Manhattan. I get all my stuff. I got my backpack on and shit. And I'm running through, and we run through the metro, and we're hopping gates and shit. And I get to his place, and he comes out of his house, his hat turned around, but he comes out, pays for the cab, and he's acting like I've known him for 5 years. I'm like, this shit's crazy right now. Like I'm about to. And the one thing I remember is he's the first person in hip hop to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I remember seeing on VH1. I remember thinking, I wonder if his trophy's like. I remember seeing it on TV. I wonder if it's like, where is it, on his mantle? Is it on his kitchen counter? Where? And so I walked in and I saw it, and it was. I don't want to. You probably wouldn't want me telling people where things are in his house, but it was amazing, dude. I got to see pictures and to live a lot of like hip hop history, looking on the wall and looking around. And I remember I tried to pull my camera out, and I was just excited. I wasn't trying to put him. Put his life out there or anything, but I was excited. And my boy at the time, his assistant's like, hey, you probably don't want to do that. Put the camera away. I'm like, I got you. So we did that, and it was cool because he was in his basement, and the floor was thumping. The floor was thumping in the living room, and I go downstairs, and he's recording a song with Q-Tip on the album. I don't know, man. Healthy looking dude, and he was just. It was a dream. I'm sitting back there, and he's looking at what I'm... Because what we discussed was I'd be working on the possible album cover, which I didn't get the album cover, obviously. And he thought that I might not, because his label was out of Germany at the time, and they wanted his face on it. So, obviously that happened, but I'm sitting there working on it, and he's giving me feedback, and I'm just drawing, and I'm sitting there, like the organic elements that were in his house of hip-hop at that time. Like, I was sitting there drawing out graph pieces and doing this stuff, and he was recording, and he had the engineers in there with him, and his engineers kept coming up for air basically, and they were like, man, we've been working on this one song for 10 hours, he's not happy with it. I remember him giving me shit. He leans over my shoulder and he goes, hey, get that off the table, man. What are you doing? Like, he was like, you can't have that on the table, man. Who the fuck do you think you are? And I'm like, oh my god, man, I just pissed off Grandmaster Flash in his house. He's gonna kick me out. And he looks at me, he goes, I'm just kidding, man, I'm just kidding. And so we're hanging out, and I'm in his bathroom, and I'm, taking a leak, and I'm looking through I'm like, what kind of shampoo is Grandmaster? You know what I mean? It was dope. It was fun. It was a dream. I mean, that's the top, and then there's been tons of experiences to go along with those.
Hit me hard now. Ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's great. I think in lots of different forms. I mean, not only is it a huge music scene, obviously, for hip hop and for other things, but I think it's a huge art city. It's my honest opinion that I wish there was more funding for art, personally, and personally from people and through government and state funding. I wish it's respected. But it's not necessarily respected out of people's pocketbooks, and that's not for me looking to get rich or get money or this and that. It's just, from what I've seen over the years, and I think there's people that agree with me on this, there's so much damn talent here that it's saturated with talent, which is good, and it can have its negative points too, because I know lots of talented artists that if they were in another city, whether it be smaller or bigger, they'd be killing it with what they're doing and doing amazing stuff, and probably doing fairly well financially too, but there's not a lot of money that's put into the art. There's not a lot of money that people will spend for art or a painting or this and that. people love it, but you hear like 7 times out of 10 if you're at a gallery show, like I don't I definitely don't have money for anything like that. And it's stuff that if you go to other cities, is pretty reasonably priced for the work that they put into whatever the artist did, you know. So that's kind of tough to see. But as far as the art scene, there's tons of great artists. There's tons of great drive in the city, you know. And something that's really cool is in 2000, like when I started, when So Supreme, Jason, when my friend Jason and I were at First Avenue, and I was painting live, just live for their hip hop night every Friday night at First Ave in the VIP room, and then around. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. But then it was I saw live painting here and there when I started doing it in like 2002 or so. It was still, from what I saw, it was still fairly new in Minneapolis, and now you can see it all over the place, and that's cool to see. You know, I see it on flyers all the fucking time, and it's like, wow, who's that dude? Who's that? And I love checking out people's work. It's cool. You know, it's funny because my father was in politics for a long time, and my mom was involved to a certain degree too. I have over the last year or two, I've tried to mentally stay away. I don't get that involved. I'm realizing more and more, and that goes not just for politics for me, but that also goes for news and media. And a lot of it's, it's not a cop-out at all. It's the fucking truth. A lot of it's so negative. But to me, I've stayed out of it on purpose, and it's been good for my psyche, and it's been good for my attitude, you know, because at the end of the day, I mean, shit. I mean, everybody knows that if, you know, politics and war weren't involved in a lot of things in life, we'd be a hell of a lot better off, you know. But I vote. I mean, I do my part. I vote, and I'll have an opinion if someone wants to ask me, but that benefit was from a friend of mine, Ben Henning, who is a really, really good dude, that I was honored that it just happened to be an Obama benefit, and I knew that the piece would be different from anything I had done this year, because it would be a collab with Carrie, and it would be a glass piece, and I just sketched out these letters that said "Live your life," and I did this just kind of like red, white, and blue kind of drip heading down the glass, and it meant something to us.
If the meek shall inherit the earth, then not the weak. Let me inherit the streets.
It's not just one thing, man. But I'd say, honestly, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but the dreams I had when I was a kid. Like, when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to do something with this art thing. And I knew I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't shooting, and I'm still not. You know, I'm not shooting to be famous. I'm not shooting for this and that. But anybody that does art for a living would be. You read about it and whatever. I'm gonna say I'm calling bullshit on anybody that says that they don't want anyone to see their work or they don't care, or else they wouldn't do it. You know, it's like I don't want to do 100 paintings and I'm sit in my apartment so they collect dust. I want people to see them, to like them. You know. I mean, the reason why I've always considered myself, I think it's just, it's honestly practice, and it's a muscle that you form over years of having to feed yourself. Really. I mean, I knew in the same time I quit going to MCAT and I started doing my own artwork for a living and making money off of it and eating and paying my rent and paying bills. There was times in the lights, only a couple times, the lights went off, or handful of times the cable went off, and it was almost like this weird shit. It was almost like this thing where I'm like, all right, okay, we'll see. You know what I mean? Like, I got it. It was my fault, and I knew that. But it was fine because I knew that I had to keep pushing and keep pushing. So and I have to say during this thing, I mean, whether it be you or anybody else, I've had amazing fucking people in my corner that have supported my career, my family, artists in the city. My boss is over the years, whoever it may be that's supported me, and that also keeps me going because they see what I'm trying to do. But to me, I think it's just it's accomplishing things and knowing that you could try something else, get into the next level, doing the next thing. If I get an editorial piece here, then that's cool. Why don't I try to write this magazine or do this? And then if I did this mural here, why don't I? That's cool. And then they contact me with this dude. Why don't I come out of the box and do something totally different? If I'm doing this tattoo and I'm doing it in a certain way that only I know how to do, which is what 5 years of experience has taught me. Why don't I ask the person that's had 12 years, 18 years, and see what they would do with it, and take notes the best I can, but know that I'm not going to be killing shit and making it amazing until everything's practice, But to me, it's constant drive for being better, doing better, And I think the other answer to that is doing it with dignity, where when I feel like I'm not doing great in it, still holding my head up high and being like, you know what, but at least I'm doing it. At least I'm one of these dudes that's trying it, and I don't give up. I'm not going to give up on it unless my hand falls off or, gets cut off in a sword fight, which I get into sword fights a lot in public. Don't take that the wrong way. We can edit that part. Unless my hand gets cut off or something like that, I'll win with my left hand if I have to. My great grandmother was a pretty famous artist, and it's what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't doubt that at all. But to me, I'm not afraid to say I work my ass off, and I promote a lot of times. I'm promoting horror, and people that know me know that, and that's okay. That's how I eat. That's how I don't see a lot of people out there doing it for me, so it's like I gotta do that. No. Typical artist answer. No. Although I'm learning to be the older I get. There's more times than not when I'm 98.9% satisfied. And that was after I hit 30, I think. You start sitting back and going, that'll do for now.
It's a wrap.